Hello, it's Paul Vincenti, and it's been a while since I've checked in with a video, so I thought, I'd put one together and share with you some thoughts I've been having over the last couple of weeks. Probably something which you've been discussing also in your circles of friends at work, with your family. I mean, it's been all over the media, is this very serious crisis with irregular immigration in the Mediterranean and the standoff between countries such as Malta, Italy, and the ensuing problems with the EU and who will and who won't take the immigrants that are being saved by these very large, expensive to run NGO ships. So to be very clear from the outset, I am not advocating in any way that we should leave people out there stranded to drown in any way. I'm not saying that. Neither am I saying that we should let everybody in and allow this crisis to overwhelm certain states, such as, for example, as has happened in Lampedusa, where we saw a crisis a few years ago. So I'm not saying, I'm not here to take a position, because I don't think I can take a clear position in favor or against on the whole macro problem. But I do have an opinion about these NGO ships, which I think we ought to talk about. I start this by coming from the premise that if we are afraid to talk about the uncomfortable stuff, if we're afraid to risk upsetting each other, so we hold back, or if we in any way don't want to debate, so we shut people down, then how can we ever come up with a solution when we're doing that to each other? So I believe strongly that we need to talk about issues very openly, without somebody turning around and saying just because somebody said something or asked a question that will make them, for example, racist or far right for that matter. So the point I want to make is actually in a question. These NGO ships, which are out there bravely saving lives of people stranded out on the high seas in the Mediterranean, my question is, one, who's funding them? Where does the money come from? I don't know. So I'm just legitimately asking a question. So if you're wondering why I'm asking the question, because normally where the funds are coming from, that is where you find the motivation. So whoever is funding these migrant ships, because they cost a lot of money. It's true there's lots of immigrants on board, but somebody has to pay for a regular crew. There is fuel costs, there's maintenance costs, there's food, there's water. So money, most certainly, where is the money coming from? So who's pushing the financial agenda here, so that we can follow the money and see, so who has an interest in making sure these immigrants do arrive safely, and rightfully so, on our shores in the European Union. Yet at the same time, without casting too much suspicion on who funds them, because I really don't know, and I'd just like to know. And if you think asking that question is wrong, then you should not be debating in this column, because unless you can ask the difficult questions, then you can't make any progress in life. Okay, so the funding. The second thing is, are these NGO ships out there seemingly doing a very good job? And yes, outwardly, if you look at it from the outside, it's commendable, it's a just thing, they're brave, and they're doing a great job. I wish more people thought like that and acted like that. But really and truly, are they encouraging the problem? And if we're afraid to ask that question, then again, it's because we are polarized. And any polarized situation is bad for a nation. So what if these NGOs who are saving people out there, and they should be, if people are in distress, yes, of course, saving, but what if they're actually encouraging more of this so-called irregular immigration crisis? What if people on the Barbary Coast, Tunisia, Egypt, Libya particularly, what if people on the African coast, maybe Barbary Coast is a bit of an old-fashioned way of putting it, it's the African coast, what if they hear from their friends and relatives, oh, we were rescued, very comfortable, yeah, we stayed on the sea for quite a while, it was very uncomfortable, we thought we'd be there forever, but now we're comfortable in Europe. They will pick you up also. How do you think people will react when they hear that? They'll obviously be more encouraged to go out, because they know that there's a taxi service, for want of a better word, of NGOs waiting to help them get across. Now, if these NGO ships are just outside the Libyan waters, then what is the problem? What is the problem we're facing? The problem we're facing is we're encouraging. Are we encouraging, is the legitimate question, more of this crisis by acting like we're saving lives? And if we ignore that possibility, because it may not be the case, I may be completely wrong, but what if I'm right? What if we are actually encouraging more of the same problem? Then how useful is picking up people on the high seas, is that to solving the immigration problem? And these are questions we need to ask. Again, I don't know. I have no idea whether they do or don't, but I want to ask the question. And I think we don't debate properly in this island. We debate by soundbite. We debate by online comment. We shut each other down, and we tend to group ourselves into forms of identity politics. For example, if you're all in favor of these NGO boats bringing people over, then you will cast the other side, who may have questions, as being far right. If you're far right, anyone who asks questions like, well, should we leave them drown? Is this right? Will then be accused, you will be accused, if you thought that, by the far right of being, by the far left, or the left, the radical left, as being far right. The far right people will call for their death and execution on the high seas, and the leftists will call for the death and execution of far rightists who say that. That's absolutely useless debate. We get nowhere when people in society do that, and unfortunately I feel that even in politics we tend to go down this road. So just to be clear, I'm not in favor or against. I haven't got a solid opinion about the problem per se, but I do have some serious questions. And if the question exists that there might be a doubt that we're actually causing more of a problem, then it might not be the right solution. So unless we discuss it, we'll never know. And that's basically what I wanted to do. So that's me signing out. Do share, like, comment on this video. But if I've upset you and you think I'm a far rightist, or if I've upset you and you think I'm a radical leftist, then maybe you're not the sort of person who should be liking, commenting, or sharing this post. Or maybe you are exactly the person who should try to listen to a middle ground debate of reason, rather than simply taking extreme positions for or against. That's me signing out. Hopefully you found this useful. Till we meet again.